might have expected, the Void is going to be playing a role in Dragonflight, as many of us had speculated. A lot of us expected this, but now we have a questline in the Dragonflight Alpha that involves the followers of Neltharion, the Twilights Hammer Clan, the infamous Twilights Hammer Clan, and the foreshadowing of the involvement of the future Old Gods on the Dragon Isles. Obviously, it was the Old Gods that corrupted Deathwing, so this is only natural, but seeing that these hints are already starting in the expansion, what could this involvement lead into? Let us examine all the info that we have and what role the Old Gods could play in Dragonflight. I know the excitement about the Old Gods is definitely not at an all-time high, especially with what happened in Battle for Azeroth and how the entire Old Gods storyline ended up being completely underwhelming, and underwhelming is really an understatement. I don't know about you, but to me, the story of yogg-saron back in Wrath of the Lich King was a lot scarier, a lot more interesting than what we got with N'Zoth recently, and they really felt like a massive threat like more than a decade ago, like something we had no hope in defending against if they were ever fully unleashed. However, to present another perspective, the Old Gods being lame could be in line with the actual lore that was changed nearly a decade ago. If you remember, back in the Chronicle, Blizzard significantly retconned the Old Gods. This is already old news. They went from Sargeras would tremble at their might into they're just weapons of the Void Lords created in a Void factory and sent all across the universe to do their bidding. So in all reality, from the Titan version of the story, the Old Gods were just sent by their masters, the Void Lords, to search for world souls and to turn them to their side. Now obviously they were quite successful, as they had a whole Black Empire on Azeroth and they were pretty close to accomplishing their mission, but ultimately it was the Titans that put an end to them. Now why this is relevant to this video's topic and the current storyline is that Neltharion was corrupted by their whispers, and it is the reason he turned into Deathwing. It was also one of the reasons why the Dragon Isles were hidden so that no dragon could return, and why the unity of the dragons was destroyed. There have been some questlines in the alpha of dragons remembering the good times when they were a family, and how really emotional the entire event was for them because they were fighting each other. It really just broke apart the family and completely reshaped the Dragon Isles. What is a really interesting point is how Deathwing was corrupted, and the main thing was the burden he felt, as he could feel the earth as the aspect, but most importantly, he felt that the Titans he was serving viewed Azeroth as an experiment, and he was bitter about it. He felt like they were using him as a tool, and he might not have actually been wrong about this when you think about it in a bit more detail. As I mentioned in previous videos, it is entirely possible that Azeroth is not even a Titan, and that the Titans have been trying to turn it to their side in a similar manner that the Old Gods had previously attempted. Also, as we had learned most recently with the Primalists of the Dragon Isles, a bunch of dragons didn't really like what the Titans have been doing and how they tried to bring this order. Instead, they wanted to stick to the old ways, the ways of elemental magic. Well, Neltharion was corrupted with this angle and ultimately did turn evil. However, all across the Dragon Isles, we can see his legacy and his followers, and most notable of these being the playable Draktyr. What is interesting though is that all these followers of his are actually the good guys, because they served him back when he was a Dragon Aspect and he was all about protecting Azeroth and not bringing the destruction of the Old Gods upon it. Now, this brings us to the current information, and that is a questline that is an actual hint that is in the Waking Shores. So there is a group of Dragonkin that call themselves Worldbreakers for some reason, and they are all loyalists of Neltharion. As you know, the Dragon Isles was cut off and frozen, so they had zero information into the outside world, and they had no idea about the corruption of Neltharion or even the fact that he was defeated quite recently. Now, their leader is this Dragonkin guy called Sygenoth, the voice of Neltharion, and under his command, these Worldbreakers are doing something crazy. They are trying to reform Morchok. You may remember Morchok back from Cataclysm, as he was the first boss of the Dragon Soul, that huge elemental guy that was summoned by Deathwing. Now, you may be a bit confused here. So these guys are Neltharion, not the Deathwing loyalists. They don't know their leader is dead, yet they're trying to reform an elemental that served him that was defeated recently. How would they know the elemental is dead, so they're trying to rescue him, but they have no idea about Deathwing? Well, the answer is simple. They are being manipulated. This Psychonaut guy shows himself during a battle, and he is actually an ogre from the Twilights Hammer Clan, and there is even a Dragonkin elite called Neltharion the Voidgazer. So these guys have infiltrated his old followers from all fronts and are leading a new effort of the Twilights Hammer Clan. You might remember the Twilights Hammer Clan as they're pretty much the main instrument of the old gods. Through them, ultimately, they are serving the void. After the infiltrators are defeated, the world breakers become neutral, and it is pretty obvious that these guys somehow reached the Dragon Isles to try to corrupt those loyal to Neltharion, just as they had previously corrupted Neltharion himself. In my opinion, this is a super interesting development, and while it is a minor hint, it could mean a lot for Dragonflight as an expansion. Right now, we have no idea who really is the bad guy or what will even happen throughout this entire expansion. The biggest speculation is that this is going to be about time travel, Nosdormu, Infinite Dragonflight, but let's be real, we really just don't have any idea. At least any sort of concrete idea. At the moment, the only significant info that we have is that Jailer left us with this massive cliffhanger, and there is some universe-shattering thing that is to come, and we were also told that Azeroth is awakening. So you can guess that some big stuff is going to go down on the Dragon Isles, and I can say I would be surprised if the Void doesn't show up, as they might even be related to this upcoming cataclysm of the universe, and it was obviously always their goal to corrupt Azeroth, and this is why they reached the planet in the first place. Now, let's quickly go back to what I previously mentioned. So, remember that Deathwing was corrupted as he felt like a tool of the Titans, and that Azeroth was just an experiment? Well, what if the old gods did corrupt him, but the only reason why they were successful is because they did what the Void does best, and that is that they showed him half-truths, and that is why he was so convinced and why they were so successful. What if he had the same vision that the Jailer had of this upcoming cataclysm, and he thought that this old god reality would ultimately be better than the actual reality, this actual what is to come? This is exactly the same reason why Nosdormu ultimately turns into Morozon, because this destroyed old god reality is nonetheless better than the actual reality that is supposed to happen. So this could be some serious foreshadowing, and we can expect a lot of Void lore and Void development in this expansion. Maybe by the end, Dragonflight could turn into a Void expansion, like an ultimate Void expansion, and we could finally, for the first time ever, be introduced to these Void Lords that have been hinted at for nearly a decade. As far as we know, old gods are kind of a story that is already finished, and now we already know these guys are lame, they're really not that scary, and they ultimately were just weapons of the Void Lords that finally might find a way to manifest themselves. There are a lot of possibilities to learn how Deathwing was actually corrupted, and maybe the story we were told right now might not be completely right, as was foreshadowed in the Shadowlands, as the brokers revealed to us that the Titans are known liars and they're very known to distort the truth. Sure, Deathwing went insane, but what if he wasn't so insane as we used to believe? What if his visions were somewhat true, and now those visions may finally appear in Dragonflight as we untangle this mess? I gotta say, there are a lot of opportunities with these storylines to make for some really interesting lore throughout the expansion. Thank you for watching. Check out how close was Garage to conquering the world by clicking on the screen, and check out Doran's Academy for videos of real-world history. See you next time.